Welcome to This May Get Raw, Building Wise Resilience, a podcast by survivors for survivors. I'm Lisa.
And I'm Sarah. As domestic abuse survivors, we know what it's like to rebuild after the unthinkable. We're here to walk alongside you, from surviving to thriving. Each week, we'll invite you into honest conversations about the hard stuff and the powerful stuff. The shame, the fear, reclaiming your identity, and stepping into the life you deserve.
This may get raw, but that's where transformation happens. Let's get started. Hey.
Hi, Lisa.
How are you today, Sarah?
I'm doing all right. How are you today?
You're in a little bit of a different
I
setup
am.
today.
I'm coming to you from a different undisclosed location. Now
Yes.
I'm dog sitting for a family friend for a few days. So I've got my dog here. I've got her dog, who's this giant floofy golden retriever, and they're living their best lives. They're having the best time. But yep, I'm
That
coming to you live from their basement. So
So today we're going to be talking about fear. And fear is one of the most powerful forces in all of our lives, not just survivors. It can protect us, but it can also paralyze us. For survivors of abuse, fear doesn't just show up in moments of danger. It becomes woven into the fabric of daily life, um, shaping everything, decisions, relationships, and even our sense of self-worth. So we wanted to start with a story, and then I'll let you take the lead. But if you're in the audience, imagine yourself standing on the edge of a diving board, like a high one, not like on the side of like a baby pool, but like a big one. And the water is clear and safe and inviting. You've even got a lifeguard, you've got people cheering you on. Your logical brain knows that you are 100% safe. But your body remembers every time you've been pushed before you were ready. Your heart races, your hands shake, and suddenly that safe water does not look as inviting. And that's what an example of what survivors' fear looks like to them. It's not just the pool. It's not like it's conversations, it's in relationships, it's trying something new. The diving board is everywhere, and we navigate it on a daily basis.
yeah. So, and I feel like this disclaimer could apply to most of the topics we talk about, but it's particularly important on this one. Fear is it affects us all, but it's a very personal experience. It affects us all differently, and we experience it differently in our lives. So today, Lisa, you and I are talking about our experience with fear now that we're out of the abuse, now that we are no longer in actual physical danger every day, right?
Yeah.
We still live with the fear every day, but it shows up in different ways. It's less of the immediate danger. So if you are listening to this, or if you are wanting to share this with someone who is still in the situation, dealing with the fear as a more actual reality in your lives, ask for help. There is help out there. Fear should not be an element in a healthy relationship. If something in your relationship is making you feel fearful, that is a huge red flag, and there is help out there. Um, Again, what we're sharing today is coming from our own personal journeys and conversations and work with other survivors that we've both done, but we are not mental health professionals. So if you are still in the abusive situation or out of it, and you're struggling with fear that's just overwhelming, again, please reach out to someone who is qualified to help with that and can speak to that.
Yeah.
As survivors who are out of the respective situations, we also want to acknowledge that fear as a survivor occurs on the spectrum, right? For many survivors, myself included, there is still that lingering fear, but it's not coming from a place of immediate danger. For other survivors, there may still be the reality of danger of retaliation or harassment or stalking or whatever, particularly if you are still in sharing a community, if you're co-parenting with your abuser, if you have them in your life in some capacity still, that fear is going to be very different than someone like myself, who has no contact with my abuser whatsoever. Do I still have fear around getting on a podcast and talking about all of this? Is there still fear of potential retaliation? Yeah, for sure. But my daily level of realistic fear on the spectrum is lower than other people. So we want to acknowledge that too, that the things we're going to be sharing today, some of mine might resonate more with you, Lisa, some of your stories might resonate more with people. Um, it's part of the reality of being a survivor is that the things you experience do come on a spectrum, and that can also change day to day. It's really fun.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, the upshot there is if you are stuck in a situation that is making you fearful, reach out for help. If you are feeling overwhelmed by your fear response, your trauma response, again, reach out for help to someone qualified to provide it. And we're hoping by the end of this episode, you'll have a better understanding of how fear operates for survivors in the context of both the abusive situation and our recovery from it. You'll to be able to see when your fear is protecting you versus when it's holding you back, and limiting your recovery and your healing. And we want to give you some practical tools to start building that wise resilience around fear, so you can walk alongside it when it is helpful, but not let it control your life.
Yeah. Yeah. Thanks, Sarah. Those are really important. Um, it's a really important disclaimer.
This is a tough
Um,
discussion. Like, it seems when you say the word fear, I think we think we know what it means, right? And then when we start really diving into it and thinking about how it affects us, it's more complicated than it seems at first glance. For me, at least, when I was thinking about this episode, I was
yeah.
like, "Oh yeah, that's. I mean, it's not gonna be fun to talk about. But it's gonna be easy to talk about." And once we're getting into it, it's kind of like it is more complicated.
I think maybe because the spectrum is so individualized, where something like shame seems more broad,
Mhm.
very layered for different people, but it's broad, where fear, depending on what type of abuse you've experienced or what type or many types of abuse in the cycle, it can mean different
Mhm.
things to you and to your body, right? On a visceral level. Um and again, state of the world, I think many of us are in a high alert.
Mhm.
Depending on where we live in the country, there is that high alert of something else bigger than ourselves happening, right? That's not, again, kind of in our control, but not
Right.
not that fear is in our control, but so yeah, I think this is nuanced, it's layered. And I think, as you stated, we are talking about our lived
Mhm.
experience, and we are not speaking for every
Right.
person. And we are on a journey. We are still healing, and we anticipate that this is going to look different. We are talking about putting a podcast on YouTube.
Yeah.
That could paralyze us. That did paralyze me.
Paralyze
This
us,
is
yeah.
something I've wanted to do for 5 years, and each time there was a new level of
Mhm.
fear, like, "Oh, I think I could, but what about this?"
Yeah.
So, yeah. So knowing that it's layered, knowing that it's complicated, fear is the emotional aftermath of abuse,
Mhm.
right? Like, why does this matter? When you've lived through manipulation, control, or violence, your nervous system stays on high alert because so fear almost becomes your default setting,
Mhm.
right? Not because you're weak, but you're trying to stay safe. And if you go back to that diving board analogy, and you're basically, as you're going about your day, navigating the diving board, you get to a point where you're like, diving board's coming up. I have to go into work. I have to go into the office.
Mhm.
Diving board. Um, I have to have a conversation with my partner about XYZ, diving board.
Mhm.
And so you just stay like this. You stay on high
Yeah, it's
alert.
like your
So,
body and your mind are like you're constantly bracing yourself for that push into the water before
yeah,
you're ready, right?
exactly. Yeah. Yeah. The challenge is, like, the fear protected us. It still does protect us, right?
Mhm.
But in an abusive situation, it protected us. Um, it keep it's almost though like it keeps you in a prison. It keeps you isolated. It stops you from trusting. It convinces you. It's that voice in your head that says, "Stay small.
Mhm.
Don't record the podcast. Don't put it on YouTube. Don't talk to other people,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Don't tell anybody what's happened. Even if that was 5 years ago, it doesn't matter. They don't know you then. They don't need to know."
Yeah. Yeah, I think just learning to understand fear and parse out in my life what I do need to be fearful of still, or where fear is, like, helping me in my life versus where it is just it's holding me back, it's keeping me small. There was a time relatively early on, in my healing journey when the fear it was verging on agoraphobia, honestly. Like, I would have panic attacks doing anything, just going to the grocery store, even just going to hang out with my friends and people I loved. Leaving the house was becoming such a fearful experience for me. And I think that was obviously a huge I luckily was able to kind of recognize it, and it was a big red flag that, okay, there's some more healing to here that needs to be done. We need to start to address this. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, learn so it's learning to let yourself feel safe again, because you are able to recognize when the fearful voices in your head are real and something you should listen to, like your instincts are telling you something, versus just that
Right.
old programming, that nervous system dysregulation, that being on high alert that you don't need anymore. Um,
Yeah.
so, a big part of the journey for me, and I know it probably for you, at least and a lot of other people, is learning that fear isn't a bad thing, right?
Right.
It's a message of something going on in our lives. The problem comes in when we get stuck in it, or when those, like I said, those fearful voices are coming from that old programming. They're not things that we need to be afraid of anymore. They're shadows, right? They're memories, but our bodies are still telling us that it's really happening. um
Yeah.
so yeah, learning.
Yeah, I think to build off that, sorry, just building off that, I think that's why we are so passionate about talking about this, even if we're bumbling through it. But one of the reasons why it's one of the first episodes on the podcast is real healing can occur when when the effort and the work can be done to navigate the fear, because it hijacks us. And like you said, if you're not wanting to leave your house, you can't work on shame. You can't
Right.
what's feeding the
Right.
shame. You can't work on self-care because you can't leave. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? So I think that's why it's so important is it is you can become free. You can heal from this and continue to
Yeah.
heal. And it has such a great impact. But you're right, it's not the enemy. And also, fear doesn't always have to feel like
Hmm.
panic, right? It can present itself in different ways. Procrastination, perfectionism. We've talked a lot about that perfectionism. If this is perfect, then someone can't come at me and then they're not going to attack me, either physically,
And
verbally, emotionally,
yeah.
in any capacity. People pleasing, numbing out. So again, just like that can be misunderstood sometimes.
Mhm.
That can be those emotions can be rooted from
Yeah.
fear.
Yeah, I think growing recognition now that it's not it used to be, oh, the fear response is fight or flight, and now it's
Yeah.
fight, flight, freeze, or fawn, right?
On.
Yeah, so it's
Yep.
become a more broadly understood concept that our reaction to fear can make us freeze, can make us go into the fawning, over functioning, trying to please everyone around us response. So that I feel like I'm seeing those words around a lot more. And once I started understanding that concept too, I that helped me understand my reactions to my fear, because I feel the fear as anxiety, but my reaction to it is definitely freeze. I definitely go into procrastination, numbing out, again, not when it was bad in the first couple years after leaving the abuse, not wanting to leave my house. That was the fear voice telling me, if you stay here and stay small, you will be safe. And
Yeah.
in some capacity, yes, I was, because I wasn't putting myself out there in any way or taking any risks, but it was making my life incredibly small. It wasn't keeping me safe in the long run. It was keeping me safe in that immediate
Right.
moment. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, that concept that fear doesn't always show up in the same way for people is a big one. So identifying what your personal default reaction to the fear is can help. Or for me, it helped me see when I was reacting out of fear versus staying in on a Saturday night because I wanted to versus I was afraid I was afraid to step outside my door.
Right. 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 And you spoke to, our body holding the fear as physical sensations, but also healing doesn't eliminate the fear. That's why it's on a journey, right?
Mhm,
It means learning to recognize it, question it, and make conscious choices despite it. Like you
mhm,
said, I don't want to leave the house because of XYZ. I'm still fearful that something could happen. However, I'm going to choose to go to the grocery store, even if it's for 20 minutes. I'm going to come home and that's what I'm going to do to kind of reclaim it.
mhm.
Um, so it doesn't eliminate fear. It also, to those who may still live in fear, there is a reality that we live with, and that's part of my story. And so I have to be, um, when I make choices, it is with the understanding that there could be very real consequences, even though I'm 8 years out of the relationship and I no longer have contact. I've had no contact for 8 years. There still could be repercussions. And I navigate that with some of the bigger choices, like being on YouTube. Um, it's not as great when I walk out the door to go meet a group of
Mhm.
friends or because we don't live in the same state, but it doesn't eliminate it, it allows us to navigate it.
Right. I
Yeah,
think I think that's a good point to make about because when we're talking about fear, you're gonna hear us talk about the nervous system a lot in this episode, and
yeah,
I feel like there's some misunderstanding about what nervous system regulation actually is. It's not eliminating any kind of discomfort and being calm and zen and at peace all of the time. That's not reality.
right.
Um, honestly, I think if you for a lot of people, if they do feel that way, that's probably a sign that they're numbing something out and not paying attention to something. But that's my personal opinion. Um, like for me, nervous system regulation, what I've come to understand about it is developing the capacity to hold the discomfort and stay with this discomfort without running away, without numbing it out, without denying that it's there or going into complete panic mode. It's being able to hold all of the realities of life in a way that's healthy and you can still take care of yourself and cope and function on a day-to-day basis and you're not making yourself physically ill from the stress of it all. um
Yeah,
that's how I operate when I think about nervous system regulation. And fear is a big part of that. So yeah, the fear doesn't go away, you just develop. I keep like if you're listening to this podcast on just the audio, like you're not seeing what I'm doing with my body, but I keep like extending my arms out. It's like you get bigger. Your arms get bigger and you have the capacity to hold that
yeah.
more.
Bigger
Yeah.
capacity, greater
Yeah.
capacity. Yeah, yeah. Um, yeah, I would agree with your how you define it, just for the record.
Yay.
So we can be right or wrong
I love when
together.
people agree with me.
Um, so how does the topic show up in abusive relationships, right? Like, and in abuse recovery? Abusers weaponize fear quickly.
Those fuckers weaponize everything.
Um, they are masters at using it as a control mechanism. Masters. And again, it's not on day one, but it could be showing up by the second or third conversation. It could be showing up with interactions that occur. Like it
Yeah.
builds. So unpredictability, right? Like if you're standing on that diving board, sometimes you get pushed in, sometimes you don't. You're just like, I'm
Right,
bracing,
you're
like you said, I'm
yeah,
bracing
you're
myself,
always
right?
reading for it.
Um, and then that grows to loving one moment and being the best and love bombing and then raging the
Mhm.
next. And you're like, what happened? I can't even keep
Yeah,
up.
it's like Jekyll and Hyde,
Um,
you never know day to day, moment to moment, which version of them is gonna show up.
right. And you're waiting for the other shoe to drop, right? Like you're waiting for the other
Yeah.
personality to show up. Um, threats and intimidation. Um, if you leave, I'll harm you, or I will harm myself, or I'll take away your
Mhm.
kids. Um, they use threats to keep you
Mhm.
compliant. That was a big one in my relationship was if you say anything, no one is going to believe you and then I will get the kids because there's no way in hell you're getting the kids. And it was like I understood that on a very core level of like you're not kidding. Like you will do that. But that was fear. That was always a baseline that would be pulled like kind of pulled out at like that was a big one that was just it got to a point where it didn't have to be said
Yeah.
anymore. I just lived knowing that that was gonna happen. Um, and then isolation, right? Abusers know that, uh, fear is more powerful when you're alone, when you're not talking to anybody. So they isolate you from your family, your friends, support systems. If they sense that you're getting close, they will remind you. There are subtle ways and very blatant ways of like, you can't hang out with that person or that person started to figure something out.
Mhm.
Like, I've had those conversations too.
Yeah.
Um
Yeah, there were definitely friendships, that my abuser, almost from the start, didn't it was very clear he didn't trust. Probably because he knows these particular people are very, very observant and intuitive and would have seen right through him, right? And would have seen what was going on. So, yeah, there were relationships that from the start he would start to kind of plant those seeds of making me distrust them or pull back from them. And like you said, it's very subtle. You don't even realize it's happening until you're like, oh shit, I haven't talked to this person I used to be so close with in like 3 months. And, whenever their name comes up in conversation, there's always some kind of, like, snarky comment or, it's a very subtle isolation doesn't have to look like locking you in a dungeon. It's
Yeah.
very, very subtle how they do it. Like, 'cause like you said, they're masters of manipulation.
Yeah. Yeah. My family, my biological family lived on the other side of the country from where I
Mhm.
lived, and we only saw each other maybe once a year, and when we did, it was comments like, "Did you see the way they talked about you? Like, they were whispering about you when you left. Or remember when you said this comment? Did you see the expression? Like, you're the black sheep of the family. They don't love you. They don't understand you. Like, don't worry, I do."
Yeah, I love you, I understand you. Ugh. Yeah.
So then I start looking at these interactions through that lens, and
Mhm.
I'm like, "Oh, I did hear them whispering when I left the room. I don't know. They weren't talking about me, but it was like the seed was
Yeah.
planted." Um, so again, that goes with the gaslighting, right? They make you doubt your own perception of reality, um, which creates fear around trusting yourself. Like, I can trust my family. They love me. Maybe I've been reading it wrong this whole time,
Right.
right? And so then you become afraid to make your own decisions, to speak up, or even to trust your own feelings, which then you feel crazy, which then leads to the isolation,
Yep.
which leads to the threats and
It's
intimidation. Like it's
it's
one
one big
big fucked up.
yeah, like, tornado of just manipulation because once you
Yeah.
start questioning yourself and feeling that crazy, then they use that against you and convince you that you are crazy and you are the problem. So, yeah, it's a vicious cycle, and it's really freaking hard to break, even after you're out of the abuse. That cycle of just mess doesn't just go away. Even after you're out, your nervous system again is so used to being on high alert, waiting for that push, that you can't. You're hyper vigilant for many of us coming out of the abuse. You're constantly scanning every situation for that danger, for that other shoe to drop, for the person you're interacting with to do that flip, right? So you're listening to their tone and you're picking apart every facial expression that they make, just trying to figure out. It's your brain trying to predict what's going to happen next to keep you safe.
Yeah, to keep
But
you
it's
safe.
it's exhausting. That's not how I mean, we're supposed to, yes, listen to other people's tone of voice and body language and verbal cues and things like that. That's how humans communicate. But we're not supposed to be dissecting everything all around us at like 24 hours a day to try to find the
Right,
danger.
right. Right. I think I might have mentioned this on another episode, but many of us end up with autoimmune diseases and stress diseases. I think it's even been linked to cancer, is because we hold so much stress in our bodies. We get used to it and it goes on for years and years.
Mhm.
And there's lasting effects for
Yeah.
that. Right.
Yeah, it impacts us at the cellular level.
I think also when you're out of the abuse, not only is it the hypervigilance, but it's the avoidance, right? Like to your point, like, if I avoid going out, if I avoid take talking to anybody, like, I'm going to be
Right.
safe. So,
Back
again,
and forth.
we've kind of talked. I don't know if you've battled this, but another one, again, it's interesting. We're talking about these, and I'm like, we've already talked about them earlier in our
Mhm.
conversation. So I'm like, oh wow, this ties together beautifully. Again, we do not recommend on your healing journey that you necessarily have to do a podcast or be public about your story.
Mhm.
However, there can be fear of success or visibility. They are afraid to be seen. They're afraid. I remember the company that you and I used to work for, they used to list all the pictures of the people that worked at the company.
Mhm.
And I was afraid to ask them not to put my picture up there. But I was like, I'm
You're
still
al
new out of
Right, you're
this.
also afraid to have your picture up there, yeah.
Right, right. So, and I remember a therapist kind of saying, well, that's absolutely your choice. And the question is, how long do you want to live in this fear?
Mhm.
Because that's always going to be a reality. And if this is a simple thing of being on someone's website for just being hired, and this is social media and interwebs life, like how far do you take that?
Yeah,
But it is a real fear of punishment, criticism, rocking the boat, um, and it's that internalized voice. It's not our own voice.
yeah. I mean, honestly, as you're saying that, I'm kind of like, "Well, it is and it isn't," because, especially if you are just getting out of an abusive situation, you may need to take stronger precautions, like not having right? You
Absolutely.
that's the
Absolutely.
once you get past that immediate actual hopefully, you get past that immediate actual remnants of danger, and then, yeah, you do have to have the conversation with yourself about where you're okay starting to take a little bit push back against that fear and take some of those risks. Yeah. For me, starting to talk more on social media, label myself as a domestic abuse survivor, and talk more on social media about my experience was it's still one of the scariest things I've ever done, but
Yep.
it's also been very liberating. It's also been it's opened doors for me in my business, but more importantly in my healing. So
Yeah.
pushing past that fear of visibility, for me in that capacity was really transformative.
And again, if stalking is part of your story, if you are not, as Sarah mentioned, if you're co-parenting, like if there are things, I also acknowledge that there are sometimes, I've had clients who legally are separated and divorced from their partner, but they are afraid of the consequences financially and how that could impact divorce decrees, alimony. But I think that speaks to the publicity of abuse instead of publicity of
Yeah.
themselves, right? But again, there is fear of success for yourself because of the scrutiny that's going to
Yeah.
come, that could come, the critique, or abandonment or rejection. Like, I put myself out there as someone that's a writer, and I was wondering how this plays into your entrepreneur journey because even before you started talking about it, you've been an entrepreneur for
Mhm.
years. So, did you have a fear of rejection or abandonment when you kind of pulled that thread and decided to go out on your own?
Oh,
Um,
constant. And I mean, I think most creative entrepreneurs feel that too. Every pitch you send out, you're like, "Oh, are they gonna like me?" But yeah, there is still that voice in the back of my head that I am battling, telling me I can't do this. I'm not smart enough, capable enough, whatever, to do this. I'm not the entrepreneur. I have come to recognize that that voice is not mine. That's coming from other people, my reviews are among them. So for me, pushing past that particular fear is kind of just like a big fuck you.
yep.
It says so that's made it easier because I view it that way. Like, no, I'm gonna prove you fucking wrong, right?
Yeah. Yep. Mhm.
That helps me get past the fear of rejection. But yeah, as an entrepreneur, it's pretty constant. And just the visibility and opening yourself up professionally, personally. It's that fear of vulnerability too. Yeah, I mean, it's professionally speaking about my experience. I'm kind of placing my trust in a whole lot of people, most of whom I don't even know.
Yeah.
Which I need to not let myself think that way too often because otherwise I will just get paralyzed and stop.
Yeah. Yeah.
um, but on the personal level too, being willing to open yourself up again, whether romantically or not, just opening yourself up about your experience
Yep.
to, your friends or your family. That level of vulnerability brings a lot of fear with it too, because you've been burned before, right? We
Right.
thought we could trust someone and did not work out so well. We could not trust that person. Um,
Yeah.
so that's a visceral one, that vulnerability.
Yeah, and I think it's not necessarily just even about sharing with someone new about our past. It is showing up as ourselves.
Mhm.
Oh, it's one thing that I can go to the office and like I've overcome my fear over here and I can do this and I can do this, but actually showing who I authentically am to another person, I mean, that could really just be brutal and could take me out. And I think loving somebody in a romantic relationship, the stakes are so much higher because when you don't know and you choose to just engage and you're in a relationship and you don't know the hurt and the physical pain and the emotional pain of being
Mhm.
broken, it's innocent, it's lovely, it is heartbreak. It's okay, that sucks. That's not my person. But when there's a person that's maliciously and vindictively come after you, and just torn you down to love again, it resonates in our bodies. Like it is a visceral, like I don't think so. Or I'm gonna need a lot of support because I do want to lean
Yeah.
in, and I do want to learn how to trust again. So I think just some red flags if fear is running your
Mhm.
life, and again, out of the relationship, um, this one goes to kind of people pleasing, like you're making decisions based on what won't upset other people,
Mhm.
not not what you truly want, but like how you're navigating relationships. Like you're still walking on
Yeah.
eggshells.
Yeah. Overthinking everything was a big one for me. Again, my default is that freeze, that paralysis. So I would overthink the most basic things, and just not be able to make a decision because yeah, you're so afraid of missing missing some giant red flag and getting into a bad situation again. It's almost easier for your brain to just go, no, just don't do anything.
Yeah, yeah. And then we've addressed some of the physical symptoms, right? Like headaches, digestive issues, tension, panic attacks, anxiety with no clear medical
Right.
cause. Um, bracing yourself. You and I have talked about yoga and like box breathing. Like I still can't do box
Nope.
breathing
Me
because
too.
if you tell me to hold my, or when someone says, take a deep breath in
Nope.
and hold, because I'm forgetting to breathe on a regular basis. Like when fear, even when I'm watching TV, I'm like in it and I'm like,
All right, exhale.
oh, I'm forgetting to breathe. I got a massage yesterday. Someone
Ooh.
that works with somatic massage, and they said, breathe. Lisa, you're not breathing. Like I don't even realize. And it was a relaxing, calm, a person I trust that I've gone to for
Yeah.
like 5 years. But it is so
Yeah.
if you're having physical symptoms, it's worth asking the question.
Yeah.
Is this what's
What's
going
going
on
on?
here?
Am I breathing? Have I remembered to breathe lately? That's I
Does
did
that
and
happen to you or is that common?
I mean,
Like is that just
I do
me?
no, I do the exact same thing. I'll be like
Okay.
just feeling the anxiety rise, and I'll be like, "Oh, I've been holding my breath for the last, minute and a half. I should probably breathe out and take another one." Yep, can't do box breathing. They do it a lot at my bar studio. We have like a breath work section at the end of every class, which is great.
Oh,
But
okay.
when they do the box breathing, I'm just like, no, I'm gonna be in the corner doing my own thing because that's gonna that's gonna undo all of the relaxation I just did the last
Yeah.
hour. Yeah.
Have you ever done the breathing that it's called breath work, but they'll walk you through it's someone talking you through, like, a particular way of breathing?
Mhm.
I should be more I should share more. I should learn more before I share, but it's rhythmic breathing. It's different than what we're usually used
Mhm.
to, and it kinda peaks as they talk you through, and at the pinnacle, you get to just scream or release or cry, and it's this amazing sensation in your body, but learning how to breathe differently really trips me up.
Mhm.
Or, like, nose breathing when they say block
Yeah,
your
or a nostril.
tape your mouth shut,
Mhm.
like, I'm like, "Wait, I'm already struggling to breathe here."
I
So
work I work with an absolutely amazing woman. She and I connected on LinkedIn and have become friends now. And she, among other things, she's a kind of like a creativity coach. But she is a breathwork practitioner. And
Oh,
she
okay.
is trauma informed. Her sessions are phenomenal because she knows how to lead you through that and also what to do with you when you're like a crying mess afterwards. That's where the
Yeah.
trauma informed part comes in. She doesn't just kind of lead you through a session and then leave you to figure it out.
Yeah.
There's a lot of, guidance and support as you're moving through whatever came up for you. So yeah, I will absolutely drop her information in the resources too
Yes.
because she is absolutely phenomenal. But yeah, breathwork is I love it. I recognize it's not for everyone, and even for someone who loves it like me, it can be deeply uncomfortable a lot of times,
Yeah.
emotionally
And
and
it's
physically.
ceiling. Yes, and you feel drained
Mhm.
afterwards, but also there is a clearing.
It's like having a
There
good
is a
cry.
release.
Yeah. Like, it's exhausting, you wanna take a nap afterwards, but you're like, "Oh, I just lost 10 pounds of emotional baggage."
Right, right. So if you're listening, I am not a good uh please look into it 'cause it is helpful. I have done it and I have found healing. It's just not my go-to. Like I think I have to prepare a little bit more
Mhm.
than maybe someone that hasn't experienced my level of trauma or doesn't struggle with
Right,
breathing.
yeah. If you're a good breather, it might be for you.
You're fine. You'll get so much benefit.
Oh my gosh.
Oh, that's funny. So funny.
Okay, so I know in every episode we like to try to connect what we're talking about to the raw framework, which is resilience, awareness, and wisdom. So when we're talking about fear has a really unique role in each of those stages. Learning how to live with your fear. Because again, it doesn't go away. It will change throughout your journey. It might be greater or lesser at certain points. But the resilience is learning to live with it without being controlled by it. It's that learning how to stay. So it's not resilience when it comes to fear, isn't getting rid of the fear. It's not being fearless. It's being able to feel it without getting paralyzed, without going into fight, flight, freeze, or fawn. Sit with it, knowing that you've done harder things than this. Whatever it is that you're currently afraid of, you are a badass survivor. You have done so much harder
Absolutely.
things than whatever it is that's bringing up the fear right now.
Absolutely, absolutely. And it's building that resilience by practicing those small acts of courage,
Mhm.
right? Like, I think I should say something in this meeting, but my heart is about to explode out of my chest, and
Mhm.
I'm gonna choose to do it anyway because, oh, yeah, I'm fucking standing after leaving an asshole and who wanted to take me out.
Yeah,
Like, I can do
makes
this,
sense.
right? Um, and then your body afterwards has the aftermath that it has, but it's like, "Oh," to your point, like, "I survived."
Right. Your
Okay.
body starts to process, wow, that was wildly uncomfortable, but we lived through it.
Right,
Yeah.
right. I can
I
handle
can handle
this.
this. Another one I
Yeah.
love when we're thinking about resilience is trying something new, even though you might suck at it or you might fail at it. I hate that. I hate failing. I hate it. And so I often don't try anything
Yeah.
new so I don't fail at it. But I was out to dinner last night with a friend and dog sitting for she and my housemate, that's my housemate's cousin. They're going on a trip. So we all went to dinner last night and I forget how it came up. We were talking about their kids and raising kids and everything. And she said that one of her favorite questions to ask her children, who are now grown-ups, when they were young around the dinner table was, "What did you fail at today?" And just having that be a regular question and a regular conversation has really gave her kids the resilience to know that failure isn't bad. Failure is how you learn and how you grow, and it's something you should be celebrating. So I absolutely loved that. I was like, "I'm gonna start asking myself that more often and giving myself permission to actually do it."
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. The perfectionist piece of it does step
Oh,
in big
yeah.
time, right? So, yeah. Yeah. I think so, the awareness is recognizing when fear is real and when it's an echo of the
Mhm.
past, right? It's about developing that ability to pause and ask, like you mentioned earlier, Sarah, like, is this fear, is what's happening, is the fear that I'm feeling based on what's happening right now?
Mhm.
Or is this an old fear from the
Mhm.
past? And I love that term, echo fears.
Yeah.
Fears that totally made sense in a previous abusive relationship, but no longer match the current
Mhm.
reality. Um, for example, like fearing that your partner is going to explode when your current partner has never shown themselves to do
Mhm.
that. My partner and I have an expression that we just use if we're able to express our fear, and I'll say, I want to tell you this, but I'm afraid this is how you're going to respond. And he says back to me and I say to him, those are old tapes.
Oh, I love that.
Like validating that that is very real and very present in the moment, but reminding them that we can release
I
that.
love that.
And it does. It
How
just
did you guys come up
kinda
with that? Is that something that just kind of developed over the years you've been together?
yeah, I I think I learned from a
Mm.
therapist, like, old
Mhm.
tapes, like, the tapes that are running in my head and the different ways that I wanted to navigate those tapes. Like, okay, that tape is still there.
Mhm.
This tape is still here. That tape is gone. And so I was able to recognize it in my partner
Mhm.
when there were certain things that he was doing. And I'm like, but that's not me. Like, it's okay. And then I taught him about tapes and then we developed it together of just like, oh, and so he has now started doing it to me. And
Mhm.
I'm just like, oh, right. But they're very, again, very real
Right.
and very
Yeah, I
present.
love that's
Um,
it's not diminishing it, it is validating what you're experiencing, but just reminding you that that's not the current reality anymore.
And so many times when he says that to me, I literally breathe. Like, I'm like,
I
"Oh, right,
freaked out when you
yes."
said that. I don't know if you noticed, I was like, "Oh, wow."
And then sometimes we laugh, right?
Mhm.
Like, "Oh, I know that."
Mhm.
But sometimes we don't. Sometimes we
Mhm.
don't. So, again, awareness helps us recognize real danger, um,
Versus the
in a present
perceived.
moment,
Yeah.
perceived. Yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't invalidate, it's just it's a data source. So then you can choose to do what you want with that information and consciously choose differently or not, because that's sometimes sometimes you need to just walk through the old tape too, you know? It's
Yep.
but once you're aware of what's happening, you make those choices consciously. You're not just automatically responding out of that stuck fear.
Yeah. I also another example, of this was when we about a month before we were getting married. So we've only been married, we're going on our 3rd year. We've known each other 5 years. A month before the wedding, I was starting to panic, and I could not for the life of me figure out what the panic
Mhm.
was. And I remember someone saying to me, "Sometimes excitement feels like fear when you have trauma in your background." And I was like, "Oh, because I am
Yeah.
excited. I am." And it was bumping up against, "Oh, I'm doing this. Like, I'm choosing to marry a person, and last time I married a person, it didn't work out for me."
Mhm.
So there was real valid stuff, but then there was also like, oh, no, like, this is a complete yes, and there was, like, no fear that it was gonna turn out the way that it was, but it was how it was presenting,
Mhm.
and I just loved it was my sister-in-law that said that to me. She just and it was in a text because I kept saying to people, "I don't understand what's happening." Like, I am wigging out and, like, you know me, I'm a type like, things were planned,
Right,
everything
yeah.
was good to go, like, it really was just enjoying the process, and when she said that, it just clicked, and I was like, "Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
duh."
Yeah, so yeah, being aware of, like, is this anxiety or is this anticipation? Is this fear or is this excitement? Because they do show up so similarly in our bodies, physiologically. Yeah, and that I mean, that kind of brings us to the wisdom part, which is, again, that choice of how to respond. Once you're aware of what's actually happening, is this fear? Is this excitement? If it's excitement, you can just fucking let yourself be excited and enjoy it, right? If
Right,
it is
yes.
fear and you've identified that it's a realistic fear versus a past fear, you can make wiser choices that are
Yeah,
empowering you. And that are aligned with, your values and who you want to be and where you want your life to go and look like and everything. So, if you're scared to have a conversation, you can acknowledge that fear and whatever old tapes that fear might be stemming from, but also acknowledge that I know this conversation is important for my job, my relationship, my well-being, what have you. So it's
yeah.
again not invalidating your fear, but acknowledging it and then making the wise choice of what to do with it.
Right, right, and it's choosing
Mm.
courage over the comfort,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah,
Um,
this it's and I've used this metaphor in my life when dealing with my anxiety for such a long time because the anxiety is not going away. It's a part of me. And
yeah,
so, I try very hard to embrace all parts of me. But I will tell my anxiety, "You are welcome to sit in the back seat, but you don't get to drive anymore." Because for years I let it drive. But now I'm not
yeah,
kicking it out. I'm not, telling that part of me that it's bad or it's wrong. I'm just saying,
yeah,
"You're
judging
welcome.
it,
Come
yeah,
sit in the car with us. Let's go on a road trip, but you're not driving."
yeah, I love that, like
Yeah,
acceptance,
exactly.
yeah, and wisdom. "Oh, I see you, you've been here
Mhm.
before. I know what it's like when you drive, not
Yeah.
today."
It's awful, and I
We
do
don't
wanna
want
get car
that.
sick, so you're not taking the wheel with me.
It's not pleasant for anybody. So we're at the part of the show where we talk about, like, practical invitations of, like, how survivors can build,
Mhm,
um, resilience and wisdom and
mhm.
awareness, and one of them is just,
I mean, we come back to this a lot, but it's asking ourselves what's happening right now. Pulling yourself back to that present moment to identify what's actually going on. So, okay, naming it. What am I afraid of right
yeah,
now? And being really specific about it. Being, oh, I'm afraid I will be rejected in this meeting. If I speak up and my idea gets shot down, I will feel that rejection. I'm afraid of talking to this new person because I'm afraid of being vulnerable again. So naming your fear and being really specific with it. That again starts to just let you get that awareness and identify what's actually going on for you. 'Cause you can't do anything. You can't make the wise choice until you know what's happening.
And locating where it is in your body, right? Is it your breathing? Is it your chest? Is it your stomach? Your shoulders? And then kind of, okay, or holding your stomach. Okay, I see it. And then is asking that question. Is fear based on what's happening right now in this moment? Or is this an echo from the past? And that's where it gets tricky because you may be fearful of speaking up in a meeting, but the echo is the rejection that you are sure is going to
Right.
happen, or the rejection, right? Like that you are
Or the
determined.
echo takes
So
you to, like,
it is
yeah, the
nuanced.
echo will take you to the worst case scenario versus, okay, you speak up in
Yes.
this meeting and your idea might not be the one that the group ends up going with. But your mind, worst case scenario, is telling you you're gonna be ridiculed, all your coworkers will hate you, you're gonna lose your job and end up homeless in a box
You
on the
lose your job.
street. This is I mean, that I always somehow end up homeless in a box on the street in my worst I don't know why. I don't know why. I know I have so many people in my life who love me and would not let that happen, but that's where my mind goes.
It's fair.
So
For sure.
now I
It's very
know when I get to the point where my brain is telling me you're gonna be homeless in a box on the street, I'm like, "Okay, this is when I need to stop listening because this is an old clue."
yeah,
Yes.
awareness and wisdom. No. No, no, no. And then sometimes it's even that step when you're going down that path is like, okay, that reality check-in. Like,
Mhm.
what evidence do I have of someone being fired after they spoke up in a meeting or that they were publicly ridiculed and shamed? Like, I don't actually people sometimes thank each other and say, "Oh, thanks for your idea. We're not doing it." Or,
Right.
um, and then choosing a response.
Mhm.
Like, okay, even if I'm afraid, I'm going to speak through speaking up in the meeting, or not today, but next time I'll do it,
Mhm.
right? That's a
Right,
choice.
that is a choice.
That's an acknowledgement, that's
Yeah.
awareness. Um and I can't speak up in the meeting, but what I can do is say hi to that new coworker that just showed up and this is her first
Yeah.
day, right? Like, so it's taking one brave
Yeah,
action.
and starting small if you're afraid to.
Yes.
Yeah, when I was getting over my almost agoraphobia, it was very small. It was, "Okay, I'm going to go even though I want to stay home in my PJs and do nothing, I'm going to go in my PJs still up the street to hang out with my friends." It was the idea of putting on real clothes was too much, but I was like, "You know what? They don't care if I show
Yeah.
up in my PJs. Me walking down the street in my PJs is far from the worst thing this city has seen, so I'm gonna I'm gonna do it."
If you live in a big city, you know.
Right,
If you know, you
right?
know.
Yes. So being, starting small, taking those small steps, and then like so much we talk about in this healing journey, it compounds and you build on it.
Yeah.
Another practice I love that I would invite people to try um is actually physically writing it out, not typing it, but actually handwriting it. There's a lot of neuroscience behind how handwriting things is
Yes.
a really effective therapeutic practice. So writing out, I'm afraid of X, Y, and Z, and writing out your worst case scenario and then flipping it. I'm afraid of X, Y, and Z. Here's the best case scenario.
Mhm.
That really, again, that helps your brain just start to conceptualize the other options out there, and that helps to put the pause on that tape of it's always gonna go to the worst case scenario. You start to see that other things are possible when you are willing to be brave.
I think of building that, what I love is the idea of like a courage log,
Mhm,
like evidence of your
mhm,
resilience, right? Like, I did not live in a box on the street, but I did live out of my car.
mhm.
So, again, dark humor. It's like, okay, I have to do this uncomfortable thing, but I did live out of my
Right.
car, and that was pretty awkward and awful, but I figured it
Figure it
out,
out. Yep. So I'm
right?
capable of this.
Um, I had to face my abuser in court to get a restraining order. Was it my favorite? Hell no. Did I feel like I was gonna vomit and pass out? Yes. Did I get through it? Am I still standing here? Yes, I did. So I feel like this is our superpower when you can actually think about, especially those of us that have gone through really um I was going to say physical, but like again, I'm going to go dark. If someone's put a gun to your head, you're still here. If someone broke bones in your body, you're still here. Um if someone literally told you you were trash and that you would amount to nothing, you're still here. Despite all of that stuff, right? You're not just courageous, you're a fucking badass, courageous person that like is fucking still standing. So I can get really passionate about this courage log of like we've been through some shit. Like I would not find it comfortable if I was a non-survivor and I sat in a circle of survivors and we started sharing our shit, I would be very uncomfortable. I'd be like, this is a horror movie. Like this stuff can't be real.
Yeah.
It's that wild and crazy. And yet we are still standing. So I will get off that soapbox, but I'm just
I
saying
love
like
that. I love that. I'm like thinking as you're talking, I do this for myself on a smaller scale. I have a folder on my desktop. It's labeled for days when you forget. And it's, notes from clients or, good reviews on my writing and things like that. From a professional
yeah.
standpoint, I do that. I love the idea of turning that into like survivor, like warrior wall.
Right?
Yes, I love that.
Like, yeah. We're fucking badass.
Yeah,
We're fucking
yes,
badass.
we are.
I think we should bring that element into our podcasts because we get like dark and hard because it is
Hard.
hard and
So
we're still
we're doing
here.
it. Yep. So the last practice I just want to touch on, and I know we're heading into almost an hour with you all today, which is I feel like it flies by so fast. But
Yes.
getting to know your nervous system. And I talked at the beginning about identifying how fear shows up for you. For me, it's the freeze. But learning about what's referred to as the window of tolerance. So that's when your nervous system feels calm, you feel capable of things, and then start to pay attention to when your fear, whether it's realistic fear or those echoes, when that starts to push you over that threshold of tolerance. And the more you can identify when you're starting to get outside of that window, you can pull yourself back more quickly and easily. With deep breathing, with, movement practices, whatever practice you use to ground yourself. So the more you can kind of pay attention to when you're starting to get over your threshold, um, you're able to pull yourself back more quickly, rather than not realizing until, 2 hours later and you're in a complete state of panic or numbness or whatever it is that you go to. It's a lot harder to get back to that calm nervous system when you've gone that far beyond it. So as you start to pay attention to, your personal reactions and the things that ground you, you can identify more quickly being like, "Oh, I'm starting to get a little bit over that threshold. I need to step away from this situation, or I need to switch up, what the self-talk I have going on in my head." You identify when you need to take action, take that wise action to make a different choice.
Yeah. Yeah. I think I want to highlight because we may be using terms the audience isn't familiar with, but I think is really important. Like when we're talking about somatic practices,
Yeah.
when we're talking about grounding, a lot of times in our culture, we're taught talk therapy or even maybe group therapy that involves
Mhm.
talking or maybe journaling
All of which I love. They're great.
and essential for healing.
Mhm.
However, I felt like my healing really started to escalate and also broaden was that somatic piece, which is the body piece, which is the breath work we've talked about, which is all like the I've had
Mhm.
massages. There's tapping.
Mhm.
There's
Movement
ED.
practices.
Yeah, yeah. I was gonna say EMDR, but that's not somatic. Um, but just if that's a new if we're using terms that you're not familiar with, please Google them because there's so in our Western culture, there is more language around
Mhm.
somatics, but it's not necessarily going to come to the forefront. So I think if you are in a place where you want to move forward in your healing journey and you feel like I've journaled the shit out of everything, I've gone to a counselor and I'm done with
You're
life.
still
What
feeling
else
that
do I talk about?
stuckness, yeah.
There are our trauma does get stuck in our
Mhm.
bodies. And it is hard to identify, but some of these things that you're saying is like understanding your body, understanding a panic attack, and understanding anxiety. Just pausing to kind of go, what's happening in my body? That's somatic work. It's understanding how the body is tied to what's happened to us and what happens to us on a regular
Right.
basis.
Yeah,
It's not just
it's
trauma.
building that mind-body connection instead of just
Yeah.
dealing with them as 2 completely disparate entities, which they're not. We're all
Yes.
connected here. Um
But we do treat it that way in the medical
Mhm.
world, in the Western.
Mhm. Yes, yeah, somatic
Western.
practices, I'm right there with you. It made my healing so much deeper. Because yeah, I was doing obviously all of the journaling all the time. All of the talk therapy, and it's helpful. Like you said, it's essential. I would not be standing without my therapist.
Right.
But bringing in some of those more physical practices did help me get to know it helped me stop the numbing in my body and get to know my physical
Yes.
reactions and my nervous system reactions and understand better how to work with them. And yeah, it's
Yes.
made a huge difference.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, that was, I feel, a really valuable
Yes.
rabbit
That was a
trail
great
to go
tangent.
down. And as we highlight, how advocates, allies, loved ones, family, and friends can help survivors in their lives, we say this every episode, and it just goes without saying that these can apply to different emotions that the person you love or the person you're advocating for is feeling, right? So you can validate their fear without reinforcing
Mhm.
it. Like, I can see this is really scary for you instead of like, why are you afraid? There's nothing
Yeah.
happening.
I
Um,
love that
and
you're saying with
yeah,
your partner that's an old tape. That's what you're doing. You're validating each other's fear, but
yeah,
reminding them it's not reality anymore.
right, right. And something that I have taught people in my life to say if I'm having a panic attack, if I am feeling fearful, to be reminded that I am safe.
Mhm. Yeah.
You're safe. This is I feel this is really real for you,
You're safe.
and you're safe. And I can close my eyes and I can hear that, and that is an indicator, kind of like for you when you say, "You're not driving
Yeah.
today. I acknowledge you, but you're not driving." It's like, "Oh,
Yeah.
right. I am safe." And then create safety through predictability. If you're going to
Mhm.
say, because because life is very
Mhm.
unpredictable and it's purposely been manipulated by our abusers to keep it unstable, be consistent in your words and actions. Follow
I love that.
through on what you're going to say you're going to do. If you're going to say, I'll call and check on you, don't forget to do that because you may honestly get really busy and
Mhm.
forget, but to us, that translate, "You don't care, I'm not worth it,"
The
and I
big
can't trust
banjans,
you.
yeah.
And then the last one, and then we'll close the episode out, like, encouraging professional
Yeah.
support. Um, Gently suggesting therapy. Obviously not like, this sounds like a real problem
You
in
should
your
get
life, you should get
therapy.
this figured
Yeah.
out. You should talk to someone." Um or coaching if they're open to
Mhm.
it. Coaching and therapy can walk alongside each
Mhm.
other. Um, it it oftentimes requires specialized support, and I would argue that some survivors will say, "Well, these two on the podcast, they were in their relationship 8 years and 25 years. Like, I was only in it for a year, or I was only that's enough for remnants, right? There is no timeline, there is no
No.
comparison.
There's no the
And
survivor
sometimes
gold medal.
oh, right. We'd be see
We all be champions. Oh my
yeah,
gosh.
maybe we should get that out. But, just gently reinforcing, like, you shouldn't live in fear, and this is maybe talking to someone, and maybe
Mhm.
it's not many sessions if it was a short relationship, but there's enough residue to really fuck someone
Yeah.
up
Yeah.
and carry with it into other relationships and into life,
Yeah.
so,
And,
yeah.
that's a great segue into just kind of wrapping up the general message of today's episode. For me, it's not just you shouldn't live in fear, but you don't have to live in fear.
Yeah.
If you are out of the abuse and you are, you've reached the point in this journey when you are actually physically, financially, whatever safe, you don't have to live in that fear anymore. You don't have to stay stuck in that place. So, the fear isn't your enemy. It protected you for a long time. It's still trying to protect you. So listen to it and learn from it, but don't let it drive the car anymore. It doesn't get to make your decisions for you and run your life anymore.
Yeah, so true. You're braver than you think.
Mhm.
You're braver than you
Yeah.
realize. Um, so as always, we have a closing invitation. Would love to hear from you. Like, what resonated in this episode? What's one fear that you're challenged with or that you've already overcome? Would love for you to share your thoughts with
Yeah. What
us.
small actions are you gonna take to start
Yes.
overcoming your fears?
And we are building a community. Our desire is to build community with others. So if you don't feel like making a comment publicly, you can always message us separately. Our contact information is at the bottom. And we hope, again, that this episode gave you tools, reminder that you're not alone in the journey. And please share this episode. We are here really wanting people not to feel alone. And so sharing this episode, we understand some people can't like it. They can't repost because of situations they're in. But if you do know someone that's struggling or an advocate or an ally that is looking for resources,
Do share.
please send them our way.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, we're
So,
on this journey with you, and we're all healing together. And that's our goal. That's our entire goal here is to heal together.
so please stay safe. Take care of yourselves. This may get raw, building wise resilience. And until next time, remember
You've survived the storm, and now it's time to thrive. So keep rising.